The vast emptiness of space held secrets beyond imagination. For millennia, the quantum concordance had mapped countless star systems, categorized thousands of civilizations, and believed they understood the fundamental nature of intelligent life. Earth had always been a blip on their long-range sensors, an insignificant blue-green world tucked away in an unremarkable spiral arm of the galaxy. Captain Zara of the reconnaissance ship Starweaver approached the planet with practiced detachment. Her mission seemed routine: conduct a preliminary assessment of the planet's technological capabilities, evaluate potential resource extraction opportunities, and prepare initial recommendations for planetary classification. The quantum concordance had specific protocols for emerging civilizations, and most followed predictable patterns of development. As the ship's advanced scanning systems began their comprehensive sweep, something unexpected happened. The data streams flowing into the ship's central processing core began to shift in ways that defied standard interpretation algorithms. Quantum computing networks on the planet's surface produced interference patterns that should have been impossible. Communication signals crisscrossed the globe in complex, adaptive networks that seemed to pulse with an almost living intelligence. "Computer, run diagnostics," Zara commanded, her three-fingered hand hovering over the holographic interface. The ship's artificial intelligence began a series of increasingly complex scans, each one revealing layers of technological complexity that challenged everything in the Concordance's extensive database. Below, on the planet's surface, humanity was undergoing its own transformation. In research laboratories, government facilities, and private tech companies, something extraordinary was brewing. The first whispers of a global defense initiative had begun to take shape, born from a collective understanding that something fundamental was about to change. Dr. Michael Chen, lead researcher at a cutting-edge technology institute in California, stood before a massive holographic display. Interconnected screens showed global communication networks, satellite tracking systems, and emerging defensive technologies. His team represented a microcosm of human potential: engineers, programmers, physicists, and strategists from every corner of the planet, united by a single purpose. "We've been preparing for this moment," he said quietly to his team. "Not out of fear, but out of understanding. We know we're not alone, and we're ready." The preparations were unlike anything in human history. It wasn't just about military might or technological superiority. It was a holistic approach that drew from every aspect of human knowledge and creativity. Indigenous knowledge systems merged with advanced computational models. Traditional problem-solving approaches combined with quantum computing techniques. Back on the Starweaver, Captain Zara watched in growing confusion. The planet's technological signature was unlike anything in the Concordance's extensive records. Most emerging civilizations showed predictable patterns: linear technological development, hierarchical communication structures, clear limitations in adaptive capabilities. This planet was different. It was alive with potential, with a kind of technological ecosystem that seemed to breathe and adapt in real time. Communication networks on Earth were already shifting. Secure channels opened between research facilities, government agencies, and private tech companies. Universities worldwide began emergency protocols developed over years of theoretical preparation. What appeared chaotic to outside observers was actually a highly sophisticated, distributed intelligence network. In orbital research stations, on remote mountain observatories, and in underwater research facilities, humanity's most advanced minds were connecting. They shared information, developed strategies, and prepared for a potential encounter that most of the world's population remained unaware of. It was a silent mobilization, a global preparation that transcended traditional boundaries. The Starweaver's sensors continued to probe, each scan revealing more questions than answers. The planet's defensive capabilities were unlike anything in the Concordance's extensive database. It wasn't about massive weapon systems or conventional military strength. This was something more, an adaptive, interconnected potential that seemed to defy traditional understanding of technological development. As Captain Zara prepared her initial report, she found herself experiencing an emotion rare among her species: uncertainty. The planet they had long considered insignificant was something else entirely. It wasn't just a world waiting to be cataloged or conquered. It was a living, breathing system of potential, of adaptation, of something that defied simple categorization. The first contact was imminent, and nothing would be the same again. The first alien ships appeared without warning, cutting through Earth's atmosphere like silent blades of obsidian and light. Most civilizations would have descended into panic. Instead, humanity responded with a coordinated precision that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. In a nondescript research facility nestled in the mountains of Colorado, a team of engineers had been preparing for this moment for years. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a wall of holographic displays, her team representing a microcosm of human potential. Programmers from India worked alongside cybersecurity experts from Brazil, while quantum physicists from China collaborated with neural network specialists from Germany. Activation sequence initiated. Elena called out, her voice calm and steady. Across the facility, teams began implementing protocols developed through years of theoretical preparation and interdisciplinary research. What appeared to be a random collection of technological responses was actually a meticulously planned, globally coordinated defense mechanism. In Tokyo, a group of young engineers rapidly modified existing communication networks. Their algorithms began to create adaptive interference patterns that would make tracking human communication networks nearly impossible. Each modification was shared instantaneously across global research channels, a living, breathing technological organism that evolved faster than any alien system could predict. Meanwhile, in a secure underground facility beneath the African Union headquarters, a different kind of preparation was underway. Indigenous knowledge systems merged with cutting-edge technological approaches. Traditional problem-solving techniques from cultures around the world were being integrated into defensive strategies that defied conventional military thinking. The alien ships began their initial probing attacks, expecting the kind of linear response they had encountered in hundreds of previous planetary conquests. Instead, they found something entirely unexpected. When their primary communication systems attempted to jam Earth's networks, they discovered a distributed communication system that had no central point of failure. Dr. James Okoro, leading a team of researchers in Nairobi, watched the initial alien attacks with a sense of calculated calm. "They're using a hierarchical attack model," he explained to his international team. "But we've designed our systems to be fundamentally non-hierarchical. Every node can become a center of resistance. Across the planet, educational institutions transformed into nerve centers of resistance. Universities became impromptu research facilities. Students and professors worked side by side, developing technologies and strategies that combined academic theory with practical application. A mathematics student in Sao Paulo might develop an algorithm that would be immediately integrated into a defensive system in Seoul. The quantum concordance had anticipated a straightforward invasion. They had specific protocols for planetary subjugation, protocols that had worked countless times before. Disable communication networks. Disrupt critical infrastructure. Create a sense of hopelessness. But Earth was different. In Silicon Valley, tech companies that had once competed now worked in perfect synchronization. Competing corporations shared research, developed joint defense technologies, and created adaptive systems that could respond to alien threats in real time. What would have been impossible weeks ago now seemed like a natural, almost organic response. Space agencies from multiple countries began a coordinated effort that redefined the concept of international cooperation. The International Space Station became a critical observation point, its international crew working together with an intensity that transcended national boundaries. Data from orbital platforms was instantaneously shared with research facilities on the ground, creating a global information network that grew more sophisticated with each passing moment. The alien ships began to experience unexpected challenges. Their targeting systems would lock onto a potential target, only to find the coordinates changing faster than their computers could recalculate. Communication jamming techniques that had worked on hundreds of worlds proved ineffective against Earth's distributed networks. Medical research facilities around the globe began developing rapid response protocols. Researchers in Cape Town worked on biological protection measures, while teams in Moscow developed advanced medical technologies that could quickly respond to potential alien biological threats. It was a global immune system, preparing to defend against an unprecedented invasion. As the first wave of alien attacks intensified, humanity's response became clear. This was not a planet of isolated nations or competing interests. This was a single, interconnected organism, adaptive, resilient, and far more complex than any external observer could have predicted. The invasion had begun, but this was not going to be like any conquest in galactic history. The quantum concordance had perfected psychological warfare over centuries of galactic conquests. Their standard approach involved broadcasting images of total devastation, showcasing the futility of resistance through carefully curated transmissions designed to crush the spirit of any civilization they encountered. They believed they understood the fundamental psychology of intelligent species, a belief about to be spectacularly challenged. When their first psychological transmission reached Earth, something unprecedented happened. In a small studio in Rio de Janeiro, a group of musicians received the alien broadcast. Instead of fear, they saw an opportunity. Within hours, they began composing a musical response, a complex, multilayered piece that transformed the aliens' threatening transmission into a profound artistic expression. The music became a global phenomenon, spreading across human communication networks faster than any viral message in history. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, a team of diplomats, artists, and communication specialists gathered to develop a response that would redefine interstellar communication. Dr. Sarah Williams, a cultural anthropologist, led the team with an unconventional approach. "They're trying to communicate through intimidation," she explained. "We'll respond with the most complex language we have, human creativity." The alien transmission showed massive battleships destroying entire planetary civilizations. Humanity's response was a global multimedia project that defied every expectation. Artists from around the world began creating works that interpreted the alien message, not as a threat, but as a canvas for human expression. In Beijing, a team of digital artists created an immersive virtual reality experience that transformed the images of destruction into a narrative of resilience and hope. The installation showed how civilizations could rise from the most challenging circumstances, turning the aliens' intended psychological weapon into a testament to human spirit. A group of writers in Lagos began crafting stories that reinterpreted the alien transmission. Each narrative explored themes of survival, adaptation, and collective strength. These stories spread rapidly through global communication networks, creating a collective narrative that was simultaneously a psychological defense and a profound artistic response. The quantum concordance's communication systems began to experience unexpected interference. The humans were not responding with fear or aggression, but with something far more complex. Their transmission was being parsed, reimagined, and transformed in ways that defied the aliens' understanding of communication. In Tokyo, a team of programmers created an adaptive algorithm that could transform the alien transmission in real time. Each viewing of the alien message would result in a slightly different artistic interpretation, creating a living, breathing response that was impossible to predict or counter. Theatrical companies around the world began developing performances that incorporated elements of the alien transmission. In London's West End, a massive production emerged that turned the invasion narrative into a powerful metaphor for human resilience. The performance became a global phenomenon, watched by millions and interpreted in countless ways. The psychological warfare team of the Quantum Concordance found themselves in uncharted territory. Their standard protocols, which had worked on hundreds of civilizations, were failing spectacularly. The humans were not responding with fear or desperation. They were responding with creativity, with art, with a fundamental reimagining of the very concept of conflict. Scientific research facilities joined the creative response. Researchers began analyzing the alien transmission from multiple perspectives: artistic, linguistic, psychological, and technological. What was intended as a weapon of intimidation became the most studied piece of communication in human history. In schools around the world, the alien transmission became a teaching moment. Children created art, wrote stories, composed music, and developed technological responses. The invasion became a catalyst for global creativity, a moment that united humanity in ways no previous challenge had achieved. The quantum concordance's communication specialists watched in growing confusion. Their transmission, designed to instill fear and hopelessness, was being transformed into a global celebration of human potential. Each attempt to intimidate was met with a response so complex, so multifaceted, that it became impossible to categorize or counter. As the days passed, it became clear that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or military might. It was the ability to transform threat into opportunity, fear into creativity, destruction into art. The psychological war had begun, and humanity was rewriting the rules of engagement. The breakthrough came from an unexpected convergence of disciplines. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Central Research Facility, surrounded by a team that represented the most diverse collection of scientific minds ever assembled. Quantum physicists worked alongside neural network specialists. Cybersecurity experts collaborated with materials scientists, and theoretical mathematicians shared insights with practical engineers. Their mission seemed impossible: develop a comprehensive defense system that could adapt faster than the alien technologies could evolve. Traditional military approaches had failed countless times throughout galactic history. Humanity would need something fundamentally different. The first prototype emerged from a series of late-night discussions that blended indigenous knowledge systems with cutting-edge computational theory. A breakthrough came when a researcher from New Zealand shared traditional Maori navigation techniques, which sparked an entirely new approach to adaptive communication networks. It's not about creating a rigid defense system, Dr. Rodriguez explained to her international team. We need a living, breathing technology that can learn, adapt, and transform in real time. Across the globe, research facilities began working on complementary technologies. A team in Mumbai developed quantum encryption methods that could change communication protocols faster than any known tracking system could analyze them. In Sao Paulo, researchers created adaptive materials that could rapidly modify their molecular structure in response to external threats. The alien invasion had inadvertently created the most significant collaborative research effort in human history. Universities that had once competed now shared resources instantaneously. Private technology companies set aside competitive interests, recognizing that survival depended on collective innovation. Breakthrough after breakthrough emerged at an unprecedented pace. A group of young researchers in Seoul developed a neural network algorithm that could predict alien technological adaptations with startling accuracy. Their system didn't just react to threats, it anticipated them, creating defensive protocols before the threats fully materialized. In an underground research facility beneath the Australian outback, a team working on adaptive communication technologies made a critical discovery. By studying the way complex biological systems communicate, from ant colonies to neural networks in the human brain, they developed a communication protocol that was fundamentally unpredictable. The quantum concordance had based their invasion strategies on centuries of successful conquests. They understood technological systems as hierarchical, predictable structures with clear points of vulnerability. Humanity's approach defied every known principle of technological warfare. Dr. Rodriguez's team created a breakthrough that would become known as the Adaptive Response Protocol. Unlike traditional defense systems, this technology didn't just respond to threats, it transformed them. Each attempted alien intrusion would be met with a response that was simultaneously a defense, a counterattack, and a learning opportunity. Cybersecurity experts from around the world contributed to a global defense network that operated more like a living organism than a traditional computer system. Every attempted alien technological invasion would be met with a response that was impossible to predict or counteract. The most significant advantage was humanity's ability to integrate diverse knowledge systems. A breakthrough in quantum computing might be informed by a traditional ecological knowledge system from the Amazon. A communication protocol developed in Cape Town might draw inspiration from musical theory developed in Vienna. As the research intensified, something extraordinary began to happen. The technology being developed was no longer just a defense mechanism. It was becoming a new form of intelligence, distributed, adaptive, and fundamentally different from any technological system the galaxy had ever seen. Space agencies around the world began integrating these new technologies into orbital defense systems. Satellites became more than just observation platforms. They became adaptive nodes in a global defensive network that could reconfigure itself faster than any known tracking system could analyze. The alien invasion had triggered a technological evolution that would reshape humanity's understanding of communication, defense, and collective intelligence. What had begun as a threat was transforming into the most significant technological breakthrough in human history. In research facilities, universities, and hidden laboratories around the world, a new understanding was emerging. Technology was no longer just a tool. It was a living, breathing extension of human potential, adaptive, creative, and ultimately unpredictable. The quantum concordance had come to conquer. Instead, they had awakened something far more profound. The true nature of human strength revealed itself in moments that defied every known principle of biological and psychological endurance. When the first major ground confrontations began, the quantum concordance discovered something that would fundamentally challenge their understanding of intelligent life. Captain Maria Rodriguez of the International Defense Force stood at the forward observation point, her team a diverse collection of individuals who represented the complex tapestry of human potential. Behind her, soldiers from 12 different countries worked with a unity that transcended traditional military hierarchies. Their communication was fluid, adaptive, almost symbiotic. The alien ground forces had perfected combat techniques that had subdued hundreds of civilizations. They expected linear responses, predictable patterns of retreat and surrender. Instead, they encountered something entirely unprecedented. A small unit defending a critical research facility in the Andes Mountains demonstrated the first glimpse of this extraordinary resilience. When their primary defense systems failed, the team didn't retreat. Instead, they began improvising solutions that drew from disciplines as diverse as engineering, indigenous survival techniques, and theoretical physics. Dr. James Okoro, a military psychologist embedded with the frontline units, had been studying this phenomenon for years. "It's not about physical strength," he reported to global command centers. "It's about our ability to find purpose, to transform challenge into opportunity, to connect in ways that defy traditional understanding." The alien combat algorithms began to fail. They had been designed to predict and counter military responses based on centuries of galactic conquests. Humans didn't follow any predictable pattern. A retreat might become an elaborate trap. A seemingly desperate situation could transform into a complex strategic maneuver within moments. In a research facility in New Delhi, a team of neurologists and cognitive scientists made a critical discovery. Human brains possessed an extraordinary capacity for adaptive thinking that went beyond any known biological intelligence. When faced with extreme stress, human cognitive networks would actually become more complex, more interconnected. A Marine unit trapped behind enemy lines demonstrated this principle perfectly. Cut off from communication, low on supplies, they didn't just survive, they began to thrive. They used local environmental knowledge, improvised technologies, and a collective problem-solving approach that turned their disadvantage into an unexpected strength. The psychological warfare teams of the quantum concordance found themselves confronting a fundamental mystery. Their standard techniques of intimidation, which had worked on countless civilizations, seemed to have the opposite effect on humans. Each challenge only seemed to make human resistance stronger, more creative, more unified. In Tokyo, A group of researchers studying the frontline response discovered something remarkable. Human units didn't just fight. They told stories. They found meaning. They transformed each moment of challenge into a narrative of collective survival. This wasn't just a military response. It was a profound expression of human consciousness. Medical teams tracking soldier performance noticed unprecedented physiological responses. Humans could push beyond known limits of endurance, healing, and cognitive performance. What would have been fatal stress for other species became a catalyst for human adaptation. A small research outpost in Antarctica provided a perfect microcosm of human potential. When their facility was cut off during the initial invasion, the team didn't just survive. They continued their scientific research, adapted their technologies, and maintained a level of collaborative spirit that seemed to defy all logical constraints. The alien observers began to realize they were facing something fundamentally different. This wasn't just a military conflict. It was an encounter with a form of intelligence that didn't recognize the traditional boundaries between survival, creativity, and collective purpose. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, analyzing the global response from her research facility, understood the deeper truth. We're not just fighting. She told her international team. We're demonstrating a fundamentally different way of existing. Our strength isn't in our individual capabilities, but in our ability to connect, to adapt, to find meaning in the most challenging circumstances. As the conflict intensified, humanity revealed a strength that went far beyond physical or technological capabilities. It was a strength of spirit, of collective purpose, of an ability to transform challenge into an opportunity for growth and understanding. The quantum concordance had come to conquer. Instead, they were being forced to redefine their entire understanding of intelligent life. The global counteroffensive began not with a single command, but with a symphony of coordinated efforts that defied every traditional concept of military strategy. From the research facilities of Silicon Valley to the remote observatories of Chile, from the bustling tech hubs of Bangalore to the innovative laboratories of Berlin, humanity launched a response that was as much a work of collective art as it was a military campaign. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Global Coordination Center, watching as the first phase of the counteroffensive took shape. This was not a traditional military operation. It was a living, breathing network of human potential, each node capable of independent action, yet perfectly synchronized with the larger whole. The Amazon rainforest became an unexpected epicenter of resistance. Indigenous groups who had survived centuries of external threats now applied their deep ecological knowledge to developing adaptive camouflage technologies. Their understanding of complex environmental systems provided critical insights that transformed traditional defensive strategies. In the Arctic research stations, teams developed technologies that could manipulate local environmental conditions. What had once been considered harsh, uninhabitable terrain became a sophisticated defense network. Researchers from Canada, Russia, and Scandinavian countries shared technologies that could rapidly transform landscapes, creating natural barriers that confounded alien tracking systems. African research facilities made breakthrough contributions that redefined technological adaptation. A team in Nairobi developed communication protocols inspired by the complex social structures of local ant colonies. These systems could reorganize and communicate in ways that were fundamentally unpredictable to the alien invaders. Space agencies around the world transformed their orbital platforms into coordinated defense networks. Satellites that had once been used for communication and observation now became active nodes in a global defensive system. The International Space Station became a critical command center, its international crew working with an intensity that transcended national boundaries. The counteroffensive was not just about military might. It was a holistic approach that integrated every aspect of human potential. Medical researchers developed rapid response protocols that could protect against potential biological threats. Psychologists created communication strategies that could disrupt alien psychological warfare techniques. In the mountains of Peru, a group of researchers combined traditional textile weaving techniques with advanced materials science to create adaptive camouflage systems. Their work drew from centuries of indigenous knowledge, transforming ancient survival techniques into cutting-edge defensive technologies. The quantum concordance had long relied on hierarchical command structures that left little room for individual initiative. Humanity's approach was fundamentally different. Each unit, each research facility, each individual was both a source of potential innovation and part of a larger adaptive network. Universities around the world became unexpected military research centers. Students and professors worked side by side, developing technologies and strategies that combined academic theory with practical application. A mathematics student in Sao Paulo might develop an algorithm that would be immediately integrated into a defensive system in Seoul. Maritime research facilities developed technologies that could transform ocean environments into defensive networks. Underwater communication systems became adaptive, living networks that could reconfigure themselves faster than any tracking system could analyze. The counteroffensive revealed a fundamental truth about human potential. This was not a traditional military campaign. It was a global collaborative effort that transformed every challenge into an opportunity for innovation. Each alien attack was met not just with resistance, but with a response that expanded human understanding. Communication networks became more than just information systems. They were living, breathing organisms of collective intelligence. A breakthrough in quantum computing in Tokyo could be immediately integrated with ecological research from the Amazon, creating solutions that were impossible to predict or counter. Dr. Rodriguez watched the global display, understanding that this was more than a defensive operation. This was a demonstration of what humanity could become when fully united. Every continent, every culture, every discipline was contributing to a response that was greater than the sum of its parts. The quantum concordance had expected a linear, predictable resistance. Instead, they encountered a global symphony of human potential, adaptive, creative, and fundamentally unpredictable. The counteroffensive had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The most profound weapon humanity wielded was not technological, but psychological. As the conflict deepened, a team of global researchers began to understand the true nature of their challenge. Breaking the quantum concordance would require more than military might. It would demand a fundamental transformation of interstellar communication. Dr. James Okoro led the psychological warfare research team, a diverse group of anthropologists, linguists, neurologists, and communication specialists from every corner of the globe. Their mission was complex: understand the alien mindset and discover how to communicate in a way that would fundamentally challenge their entire conceptual framework. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A linguistics professor in Cape Town discovered subtle patterns in the alien communication systems that revealed something profound. The quantum concordance understood existence through rigid, hierarchical structures. Their entire civilization was built on a concept of linear progression, absolute control, and predetermined outcomes. Humanity's response would be entirely different. Global communication networks began to develop a new form of messaging. Instead of traditional diplomatic communication, teams crafted narratives that would challenge the fundamental assumptions of the alien civilization. Artists, philosophers, scientists, and communication experts worked together to create messages that were simultaneously complex, emotional, and intellectually challenging. In Tokyo, a team of digital artists created immersive communication experiences that defied traditional information transfer. These were not just messages. They were living, breathing representations of human complexity. Each transmission was a multidimensional experience that could not be easily categorized or understood through linear thinking. The psychological research team discovered something critical. The quantum concordance had never encountered a species that could simultaneously exist in multiple conceptual states. Humans could hold contradictory ideas, embrace uncertainty, and find meaning in complexity in ways that completely confused the alien understanding of intelligence. A breakthrough communication was developed in a collaborative effort spanning research facilities in Rio de Janeiro, New Delhi, and Stockholm. It was a complex narrative that combined scientific data, artistic expression, philosophical inquiry, and emotional depth. The message was designed to be impossible to process through traditional alien communication algorithms. Indigenous knowledge systems played a crucial role. Researchers from Australian Aboriginal communities shared communication techniques that understood reality as a complex, interconnected network rather than a linear system. These approaches became critical in developing communication strategies that could penetrate the alien psychological defenses. The global team began to understand that their goal was not conquest, but communication. Each transmission was designed to introduce concept of uncertainty, of potential, of existence beyond predetermined structures. They were essentially teaching the quantum concordance an entirely new way of understanding reality. Philosophical research facilities around the world contributed critical insights. Teams explored how human consciousness could embrace contradiction, find meaning in chaos, and create purpose in the most challenging circumstances. These insights became weapons more powerful than any physical technology. In the research facilities of Cape Town, a team developed communication protocols that could not be processed through traditional linear information systems. These were living messages that changed based on how they were observed, challenging the very concept of fixed information. The psychological warfare team realized they were doing more than defending against an invasion. They were offering the quantum concordance an entirely new way of understanding existence. Each communication was an invitation to reimagine their fundamental understanding of intelligence, purpose, and potential. Neuroscientists made a critical discovery. Human brains possessed an extraordinary capacity for adaptive thinking that went beyond any known cognitive model. When faced with complex, uncertain situations, human neural networks would actually become more complex, more interconnected. The messages became more than communication. They were a profound philosophical intervention. Each transmission carried layers of meaning, scientific, artistic, emotional, and philosophical. They were designed to be impossible to fully comprehend through traditional alien information processing systems. As the psychological offensive intensified, something extraordinary began to happen. The quantum concordance began to experience something unprecedented in their galactic history: doubt. The rigid structures of their civilization began to show fractures, small moments of uncertainty that would ultimately prove more destructive than any physical attack. Humanity was not just resisting. They were offering a fundamentally different way of understanding existence, complex, uncertain, filled with potential and contradiction. The psychological war had reached its most critical moment, and nothing would be the same again. The final confrontation defied every known principle of galactic conflict. What began as an invasion transformed into the most profound first contact event in recorded history. The quantum concordance found themselves not defeated, but fundamentally changed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the Global Communication Center, watching as the final stages of the encounter unfolded. Around her, a team representing every corner of human civilization monitored a communication process that was more complex than any military engagement. The breakthrough came not through violence, but through understanding. As the alien leadership attempted to process the complex, multilayered communications humanity had been transmitting, something extraordinary began to happen. The rigid structures of the quantum concordance started to fracture, revealing a potential for growth that had been dormant for millennia. Research facilities around the world began receiving unprecedented signals. The alien communication networks were no longer transmitting invasion protocols. Instead, they were sending something else entirely: questions, profound, complex inquiries that suggested a fundamental shift in their understanding of intelligence, existence, and potential. In the mountains of Peru, an indigenous research team discovered that their traditional ecological knowledge systems provided critical insights into communication with the alien civilization. The holistic understanding of interconnectedness that had been passed down through generations became a key to bridging the vast conceptual divide. Space agencies from multiple countries collaborated on a revolutionary approach. Instead of traditional diplomatic communications, they developed a comprehensive transmission that combined scientific data, artistic expression, philosophical inquiry, and emotional depth. It was a message that could not be processed through linear communication systems. The quantum concordance leadership found themselves confronting a fundamental challenge to their entire understanding of intelligent life. Humanity was not just a species to be conquered, it was a complex, adaptive system of potential that defied every previous galactic classification. Medical research facilities made a critical discovery. The psychological and physiological responses of the alien leadership suggested they were experiencing something unprecedented, a fundamental reimagining of their own potential. It was less a defeat and more a profound transformation. Universities around the world became centers of unprecedented interstellar communication. Students and researchers worked together to develop communication protocols that could bridge the vast conceptual differences between human and alien understanding. Each transmission was a delicate dance of information, emotion, and potential. The final communication was a collaborative masterpiece. Developed by a global team of scientists, artists, philosophers, and communication experts, it represented the most complex message ever transmitted across interstellar space. It was an invitation, not to surrender, but to understand. Dr. James Okoro, leading the psychological research team, understood the deeper significance. This isn't about winning or losing, he explained to his global team. This is about expanding the very concept of intelligence, of potential, of existence. Slowly, the nature of the encounter began to change. The quantum concordance's invasion fleet became something else entirely. A communication vessel, a point of cultural exchange, a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of understanding the universe. Research facilities around the world began receiving unprecedented requests for information. The aliens were no longer transmitting military protocols. They were asking to understand, truly understand, the complex, adaptive system that was human civilization. The transformation went beyond technology or military might. It was a profound philosophical intervention that challenged the very foundations of the quantum concordance's understanding of intelligence. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had offered a new way of existing. Indigenous knowledge systems played a crucial role in the final stages of communication. Researchers from Aboriginal communities in Australia, native groups from the Amazon, and traditional knowledge keepers from Africa provided critical insights into holistic, interconnected ways of understanding reality. As the final transmissions were processed, something extraordinary became clear. This was not a conquest. This was not a defeat. This was a profound first contact that would reshape galactic understanding for millennia to come. The global team watched in awe as the alien fleet began to transform. What had been invasion vessels became research platforms, communication centers, points of cultural exchange. The rigid hierarchy of the quantum concordance began to show signs of fundamental change. Dr. Rodriguez understood the deeper truth. Humanity had not just survived an invasion. They had offered the galaxy a new way of understanding potential, of existing, of growing. The confrontation was over, but something far more profound was just beginning.